scientist developed a genetic virus that could make its victims immortal. However, the price was steep. Once infected, the host's consciousness would be erased, and they would become mindless monsters, driven only by the urge to kill and feed. But one test subject managed to escape, making its way to the top of a building, over 100 meters high, before leaping off the edge. The sound immediately attracted a crowd of curious onlookers, unaware that the horrifying zombie outbreak that would soon devastate Japan was about to begin. The middle-aged man twitched violently and stood up in a grotesque, twisted position. The woman standing nearby didn't have time to react before the man lunged at her, ripping her throat out with a single bite. The brutal, bloody scene shocked the crowd, sending them scattering in fear. Unfortunately, the virus spread with terrifying speed. Within moments, dozens of people were infected, and they began attacking anyone in sight. The street quickly transformed into a hellish nightmare. Yamato, seeing the horde of monsters charging towards them, grabbed his girlfriend Aoi and pulled her to safety, both of them running for their lives. Along the way, Aoi noticed a girl who had fallen to the ground. As a trained nurse, she couldn't just ignore her, but in doing so, she caused a zombie to charge at them. To protect his girlfriend, Yamato jumped off the bridge with the zombie, falling to the ground below. Luckily, the zombie broke his fall, and Yamato wasn't seriously hurt. He quickly got back on his feet, but the zombie, now alive again, started to crawl after him. Just as things seemed dire, a passing ambulance crashed into the zombie, sending it flying. However, Aoi on the bridge was once again targeted by a zombie. With no other choice, the two had to split up and escape on their own. In just one night, the virus spread rapidly throughout Japan. Within a week, the entire world had fallen. 5 years later, human civilization had completely collapsed, and only a small group of survivors continued to struggle to stay alive. In the heart of the ruins stood two towering buildings, known as the last hope of humanity. The area was highly stratified. Only those in power could live in the towers, while the survivors, the common people, took refuge in the underground levels beneath the buildings. Yamato was lucky enough to survive the disaster, but for the past 5 years, he had been searching for his girlfriend without any clues. Fortunately, this time, he learned from an information dealer that the other tower in the complex was reserved for scientists and doctors who had been working day and night on a vaccine. If Yamato's girlfriend was a nurse, there was a good chance she had been sent to the tower. However, it seemed nearly impossible for ordinary people to reach the tower. The only entrance was surrounded by barbed wire, and anyone attempting to break through would be met with force. Yamato, who had once worked as a high-altitude construction worker on tall buildings, knew that such skyscrapers often had secret passages. He decided to sneak in and try his luck, but the information dealer stopped him, claiming to know a safe route. Yamato, trusting him, was taken to the leader, Yuya. To his surprise, they were a group of bandits, specialized in extorting supplies from newcomers. At this moment, another survivor was dragged in front of Yuya. Yamato, unwilling to hand over his supplies, got into a struggle with them. Yuya drew a handgun, intending to kill Yamato. Just then, Hibiki suddenly spoke up, saying that the underground facilities they were living in weren't fully constructed, and parts of the pipes must still be open. Hearing this, Yuya became interested, since they didn't want to remain trapped underground, constantly oppressed by those in the towers. At that moment, one of the gang members rummaged through Hibiki's backpack, only to be shocked by what he found. The bag was filled with explosives. The information dealer suddenly remembered that there had been a theft at the warehouse recently. Hibiki, in search of his daughter, had already set the bomb to blow open the building, planning to storm the tower. As the countdown hit 0, the car roared to life, crashing through the zombie horde and heading straight for the tower's outer wall. The explosion created a hole in the wall, immediately attracting a horde of zombies. Seeing the opportunity, Yuya quickly decided to lead a counterattack and take control of the tower. As the alarm blared, the people inside the tower immediately realized the crisis was upon them. The leader quickly dispatched guards to block the hole created by the explosion. With flamethrowers holding the line, the zombie horde couldn't get through right away. They began tossing the bodies of the undead into a deep pit. However, the blood from the corpses began to drip through the pipes and into the underground camp, landing on a woman's face. She quickly transformed into a zombie and started attacking others in the camp. Panicking, the survivors tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to run. Meanwhile, Yuya and his group were unaware of the chaos unfolding below. He lifted a wooden board, revealing a hidden passageway. If Hibiki hadn't been lying, they could use this route to reach the tower. But as they made their way down the passage, they were suddenly spotted by the guards. Yuya quickly shot one of the guards, but there were too many of them, and the group had no choice but to flee. They then took cover at the top of the stairs, waiting for the guards to get close. When the time came, they ambushed them, catching the guards off guard. During the fight, Yamato suddenly noticed a familiar scent coming from one of the guards. After a tough battle, they finally took down the guards. In the aftermath, Yamato found the perfume he had once given to his girlfriend in a trash bin, and he couldn't help but burst into tears of joy. But before he could enjoy the moment, Hibiki suddenly sensed something approaching. Looking up, they saw a horde of zombies flooding in. The group immediately launched a counterattack. The sheer number of zombies was overwhelming, forcing them to flee once again. As they rushed out the door, they were surrounded by guards. The informant quickly shut the fiberglass door, but it was clear that it wouldn't hold for long. Hibiki quickly came up with an escape plan. He grabbed Yuya's gun, smashed a window, then leaped to break the glass on the other two sides. The wild wind outside almost blew them all away, but thankfully, they managed to hold onto some heavy objects to keep from being swept off. They clung on until the storm finally calmed down. After the danger passed, the group continued their journey toward the high tower. They made their way through the corridors and finally arrived at the laboratory. Yamato was overjoyed to see the vaccine before him. But just then, a chilling reminder echoed in their ears, and the sudden sound startled everyone. It was only then that they realized there were many infected people inside the lab. The information dealer discovered his missing brother among them. It turned out they had all been secretly captured and used as test subjects for the vaccine. However, the vaccine was still in its early stages, and as a result, they had all been infected by the virus, mutating into various kinds of monsters. At this moment, Hibiki stepped forward and asked if a man named Shinji was among them. The information dealer brother suddenly remembered that Shinji was the leader in charge of the vaccine research. The information dealer wanted to take his brother with him, but his brother didn't want to live as a half-human, half-monster. He begged the team to end his suffering. The information dealer held a dagger in his trembling hands, unable to bring himself to act. In the end, it was Hibiki who understood the brother's pain and used the dagger to fulfill his final wish. With a heavy mood, the group collected themselves and prepared to move on. Meanwhile, Shinji learned that the zombies had already infiltrated the 30th floor and decisively decided to abandon all the lower-level civilians. However, as he was calling the researchers to return to the lab, he was shocked when Hibiki's voice suddenly came through the intercom. It turned out that Hibiki had infiltrated the high tower in order to retrieve his daughter, Future, who had been taken from him. When the disaster first occurred, Hibiki's wife had been infected but had not mutated. However, after giving birth to their daughter, Hibiki's wife's condition rapidly deteriorated. To allow her to die with dignity as a human, Hibiki was forced to kill her. Later, the news of Future's natural immunity to the virus spread, and she was hailed as the Chosen One. This made her a prime target for the High Tower, and they forcibly took her away. After learning about Hibiki's true intentions, Shinji made a bold promise. Anyone who could capture Hibiki would be rewarded with the successfully developed vaccine. He then mobilized all the tower's guards, deploying them in every direction to hunt down Hibiki's whereabouts. As the steel door slowly began to close, the group immediately sprinted towards it. But to their shock, Yuya, in a desperate attempt to get the vaccine, suddenly shot Hibiki, trapping him and Yamato inside the steel door. Little did they know, this was just a lie fabricated by Shinji. He had not actually succeeded in developing the vaccine. In an effort to speed up the vaccine research, Shinji decided to extract large amounts of blood from Future. Unfortunately, their plan was overheard by Aoi, who had been looking after Future. Unable to bear seeing Future being used as a mere experiment, Aoi quietly took her away. But before they could make it downstairs, the zombies had already invaded the building. Aoi was forced to flee, only to be blocked by a steel panel. At that moment, Yamato, who had tied a rope around himself, leaped from the high building, quickly shot out the window, and made his way to the lower floor. He managed to open the steel door in the control center, unexpectedly saving both his girlfriend Aoi and Future's lives. After ensuring safety, Aoi hid Future in a cupboard and bravely fought off the incoming zombies on her own. However, with no combat experience, she was quickly overpowered and knocked to the ground by the zombies. In a critical moment, Yamato arrived just in time to save her. Hibiki, noticing the girl in front of him, immediately suspected that she was his daughter. However, since they had only spent half a day together, Future did not recognize Hibiki as her father. When he extended his hand toward her, Future, scared, turned and hid in Aoi's arms. At that moment, one of Yuya's subordinates returned to inform them that a large group of guards was heading their way, urging them to escape immediately. In a desperate attempt to give his daughter a chance, Hibiki decided to lead the guards away by himself. Yamato, not wanting to leave him alone, insisted on accompanying him. But to their surprise, Yuya's subordinate suddenly betrayed them. He aimed a gun at Aoi, intending to take Future and exchange her for the vaccine with the leader. Meanwhile, Hibiki and Yamato were ambushed by Yuya, forcing them to take refuge in a nearby laboratory. Through the glass, the two saw Aoi being captured and learned that Future had already been sent back to the research lab. Hibiki immediately turned and rushed toward the lab, with Yuya closely pursuing him. However, just as Hibiki had managed to deal with Yuya, Yamato, who had caught up, shot him. The guards, using Aoi's life as leverage, demanded that Yamato bring Hibiki back. With no other choice, Yamato had no option but to comply. Hibiki continued to flee, using the zombies to block the bullets. By the time Yamato reached the top floor, Hibiki was nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, Yuya's subordinate had taken Future to the leader, demanding they inject him with the vaccine. However, the experiment once again failed, mutating him into a monster. The leader swiftly ended his life with a single bullet. Soon after, Hibiki found his way to the research lab. They had planted bombs inside the building in advance, planning to use them as leverage to force the leader to hand over Future. The leader explained that Future was critical to the survival of humanity. He even offered Hibiki the opportunity to live in the high tower with the best privileges, as long as Hibiki agreed to cooperate. Faced with the choice between saving the world or saving Future, Hibiki didn't hesitate for a second. He chose his daughter. The leader, upon learning the truth, was stunned. The savior he had been led to believe in turned out to be nothing more than a carefully constructed lie. Hibiki fell to the ground, riddled with bullets. The leader, disheartened, immediately left with his men, leaving the others to their fate. To everyone's surprise, Shinji, who had been shot, wasn't dead. He grabbed a shard of glass and crawled toward Future, blaming her for his fate. Just as things seemed hopeless, Hibiki, who had appeared to be dead, suddenly revived and stopped Shinji. Upon closer inspection of Hibiki's face, it became clear that Hibiki had injected himself with the virus to gain immortality, just like the others, in order to save Future. Fueled by his unwavering belief, Hibiki had held on until now. It was the same belief that had allowed his wife to give birth to Future and mutate. With his last bit of sanity, Hibiki, after dealing with Shinji, urged Yamato to take Future and escape. As they managed to get out, the bombs they had set earlier detonated with a massive explosion. 20 years later, a small team appears in a desolate, abandoned desert. They rescue an old man who is on the brink of dying from thirst. Led by the old man, the team makes its way back to the research facility where it all began. However, when the old man removes the bandages, they are shocked to discover that the person inside is the leader who had escaped via helicopter all those years ago. What he hadn't anticipated was that a bomb had been planted in the helicopter, trapping him here. Future, intent on avenging Hibiki, considers killing him. But looking at his seemingly sincere remorse, she hesitates, feeling a pang of sympathy. However, this turns out to be a ruse, a manipulation by the leader. Fortunately, Yamato, quick to react, shoots and kills him. Soon after, they find the mutated Hibiki in the ruins at the center of the building. He is impaled by a steel beam, unable to move, and has remained in the same position for the entire 20 years. Future's mission here is to finally release him from his suffering.
ありがとう。